So we know that this season that solar is all the rage, but there's one weapon that's been on my radar for majority of the season, and it's this little beauty right here. The Dune Petitioner Linear Fusion Rifle. Now I know that linear fusion rifles maybe have fallen off a little bit in terms of their popularity. Now there's actually quite a few good perk combos with this one as well. A few of them that I just wanted to go through today just to discuss usability in a lot of loadouts. And there's one pretty much underrated, I would probably say, but probably just lower tier sort of usage. Mainly because of just how people just generally view the meta in terms of if it isn't min-maxed then it's not worth using. But when I look at craftable weapons specifically, I always like to have a little bit of a look at like the first few perks that you can unlock, and that generally gives me a feel as to what Bungie and the weapon designers are looking at when they've created this weapon. Obviously some of the best perks are going to be the ones that you can enhance, and they're always all the popular ones like reconstruction, bait and switch, anything that's going to boost your magazine size, anything that's going to boost your damage without making too much of an effort to boost that damage is always going to be a popular option. This is where it's kind of surprised me with the Dune Petitioner. I've long been shouting out about Surrounded. I've always seen the potential in that from back in the glory days of some of the original Surrounded weapons. Surrounded, you know, it's always had that top tier damage, obviously it's been merged with the Surrounded spec mod, but now basically it does over 40% damage as long as you're surrounded by a handful of enemies, and it lingers as well afterwards once you're no longer surrounded, so that's why it's definitely taking a little bit of a moment. A lot of the top tier players that you'll see doing speed runs and stuff like that will be using Surrounded, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using it because it's a speed run style weapon. It's used by them because it's easy to activate. They don't have to worry about jumping through too many hoops to make it do its thing, and that's why pretty much I think everybody should be using it. And on Dune Petitioner, it's literally one of the first perks that you can unlock on that weapon, and like I say, Bungie generally put stuff like that at the bottom of the unlock ladder when it comes to craftable weapons, so having it being there on this one just makes it accessible for everybody in terms of the damage output that this thing can do. And with it being an aggressive frame, there is a little bit of a skill gap with that in terms of you having to be able to land all 3 shots in that burst to maximize your damage output. But if you build into stability on that weapon, so you're going to negate some of the flinch that you get from incoming, especially when you're getting peppered by bosses or ads, especially if you're trying to get that surrounded proc, you're not going to be wanting to destroy any of the ads. Stability is going to massively help the recoil and flinch in terms of getting them 3 shots on target per burst, and it really does make Dune Petitioner a strong option, especially for some of these end game activities. Like we said, the dungeon, it's perfect for that final boss, the big meatball. You're going to be able to dish out some top tier damage with that. And then a lot of Grandmaster Nightfalls, there's tons of bosses that you can pick off at distance that have large crit spots. And again, this will still do bits in tons of other content as well. Pretty much nearly all the dungeons, all the raids, anywhere that you're going to be able to stand and get a decent amount of DPS off for a decent period of time. This thing is basically going to carry you through it. And we haven't had a good free solid option since we had the Taipan from the early days of the Witch Queen. This thing was basically the biggest freebie that anyone had ever seen in terms of overall damage output. It does the business, and the old Vice Stinger before it got nerfed, you basically could empty out a full 20 plus round magazine in 30 seconds. Unfortunately them days are gone now, but it's come back around a little bit with the Dune Petitioner, mainly thanks to the Dragon's Vengeance origin trait. Always somebody dies during a DPS phase for whatever reason, either they've rocketed themselves or something stupid, and Dragon's Vengeance is going to kick in. It's going to refill the magazine, and it's also going to increase the charge rate by 5% and also give a sweet little handling boost as well. I mean, you're probably not going to need that handling boost, but if you run out of ammo, it's going to allow you to swap towards your other weapons if you need to. But Dragon's Vengeance, it lasts for 11 seconds as well, so having that charge rate for 11 seconds, although it's not going to make a huge difference, it is going to allow you to get maybe a shot or 2 or more off in a DPS phase before a boss goes immune, or you have to go and trigger some other sort of mechanic, it probably is the new Vice Stinger, and I like how it works. Adds a little bit of something different. Yeah, it's not always good that you're relying on somebody to die or to you to get critical health, but like I say, 9 times out of 10, one or both of them are going to happen in a DPS phase. Whether you're running a Well of Radiance or a bubble, someone inevitably dies, and Dragon's Vengeance is going to kick in and do its thing. But back to the perks. Permeability, like I said, it's one of the first perks that you unlock, and with this season, like I say, it's been solar based in terms of getting Radiant. All you have to do is drop your class ability, so whether you're using a Warlock, drop a Rift, Titan, Barricade, Hunters, obviously Dodge, and any good build, you can get your class ability back pretty much nearly instantly. And if you're relying on this perk to keep the synergy going with your subclass, whether that's Radiant for Solar or the Unraveling rounds for any Strand builds, it really is going to help you to synergize with your builds and just knock out that little bit of extra damage. Like I say, precision final blows and precision hits through the artifact are going to trigger Radiant, so you're instantly going to be getting that 25% damage boost. That's then going to stack with Surrounded, and it's going to basically turn your DPS to go through the roof. And Unraveling rounds is going to add that little bit of extra damage over time, and also them Strand Threads, which are going to go and attack other nearby enemies, help just to, like I say, just knock that little bit out of extra damage that you're going to need for any DPS phase. So really, I mean, like I say, I've only just crafted this the other day. I've had a few good rolls whilst I was trying to get the red border patterns, but to be honest, I mean, do I really need another weapon that's going to potentially, you know, overflow the magazine like Reconstruction? It would be good. Enhanced Reconstruction obviously makes it go quicker. Could you use that? Absolutely, of course you could. And then, you know, you can even go with something like Envious Assassin, where it's going to auto reload the magazine and overflow it over time depending on how many enemies that you've killed prior to whipping out your Doomed Petitioner. It really is just another option, and obviously you're going to want to pair that again with Surrounded. Precision Instruments there. Precision Instrument is good in theory on a 3-round burst aggressive frame linear fusion rifle, but is it going to do the business? I don't think so. Yeah, you're going to be able to get them stacks up pretty quickly, up to that 25% damage boost at a 6 times stack, but that damage boost disappears after 1.25 seconds, so as soon as you need to reload, that damage boost is basically disappeared and you've got to start again. Unless you want to drop that DPS, I think Surrounded is probably the better option for pretty much most encounters at the minute. It's especially going to do the work in the dungeon. A lot of them boss encounters, adds are spawning throughout the DPS phases, and Precision Instrument, you're just going to get knocked off. You're going to lose them stacks nearly instantly. Even with something like Reconstruction and Envious Assassin, where you've got a boosted magazine size, I don't think it's worth it. I think you're going to want to stick with that Surrounded, and like I say, in my eyes, permeability, it just absolutely gives you that extreme synergy that you want with your subclasses at the minute. Even if you want to look at doing something with Arc or something with Void, getting volatile rounds going or something like that, it's definitely another option. But at the minute, this thing just synergizes beautifully with Strand, with Solar, and this base roll that you're going to be able to craft for literally a few enhancement cores, a little bit of glimmer, is really going to just be enough for you. What else does it get you straight out of the gate? You get enhanced battery. You're probably going to want to try and get ionized battery just to get you that little bit of a bigger base magazine size. That's definitely going to help you in terms of Surrounded. And then I've gone for polygonal rifling, which, like I say, is going to increase that stability, remove that flinch factor, and just make it easier just to land all them shots and maximise the damage output of this thing. Hopefully the background gameplay has shown you a few of the examples. Fun fact, the dungeon run from the footage, I started recording at the beginning of that run, and then I let my whole hard drive run out for the next hour, which included some pretty spicy PvP clips with a sniper rifle, but that just totally wasted all my storage, and none of them clips are ever going to get anywhere, maybe Twitter, but from the gameplay, if you haven't seen, it was basically a Strand build with Fawn, doing bits for Shutdown, getting the Wanderer going and all that good stuff. I'll probably leave the dim link to that down below. A little bit of a different take on this Dune Petitioner. I hope you enjoyed my waffle, my little bit of a more casual approach to a weapon and what I think about in terms of what I'm looking at when I'm approaching these weapons, especially these crafted ones. Hope you've all had a good week, have a good weekend. Thank you very much.